One morning, I actually had a call with a client in Japan that I needed to be on as like the tech advisor for it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to set my alarm for like 5, 10 minutes right before this call because it was crack of dawn. I mean, it's so early. I
Wow.
needed just enough time to go to the bathroom
Yeah.
and make it back to bed because I don't have to be on camera. I'm just going to log on to this. And I had it all planned out. And the alarm went off. I woke up and it was still dark. So it was kind of like, well, maybe something's okay. It just seemed off, but it was still dark. So I was just like, well. And when I put my feet down on the side of the bed, it was like, oh my gosh, it was the whole room just started spinning and collapsing in and spinning and collapsing in. And I'm in the dark. So I was just like, what? How am I even seeing? I don't see. I can't feel. Like it was just the craziest thing. It came out of nowhere. I tried to keep on going, as ridiculous as that may sound. I was like, let me get to the bathroom. Let me go flip the light on. And I couldn't do anything. And before a few hours had passed, I was in the emergency room, sitting in a wheelchair by myself, unable to move.
On today's episode, I have Danyell Miller here, and Danielle is just phenomenal. Her and I have had a chance to kind of chat a little bit before we hit record today. And her story, her passion, what she does as a behavioral change strategist, and so much more is just profound. And so, Danielle, I am so grateful you're here today. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm happy to be here, Erin. Thank you.
Of course. I would love for us to kind of dive in a little bit more to your passion of what you're doing now. I mean, there's so much we're going to kind of unpack and discuss as far as your work and, the programming you're building, et cetera. But you have a story, right? You kind of had this point in your journey where you had this pretty significant wake up call come up where you landed in the hospital from exhaustion, burnout, et cetera. And I'd love for you to kind of walk us through that journey if you're open to that.
Yeah, let's see. I can start where everything kind of just got to this big crescendo, I guess, in stress, even though I wasn't really monitoring for it. I think as mothers, we're so accustomed to really just doing it, keep going, keep going, keep going. That especially if we're active in certain ways, maybe we're working out, maybe we're at what we feel is a healthy weight, we're not taking any type of medications. Because that was my story. I really didn't have anything on a radar at all that says you need to be monitoring your health very closely.
Yeah.
I just kind of, was fine. I was doing all the things that I had already normally done. And I feel like I knew better because I did go through experience with my own mother who really had a lot of stress in her life, through different things and experiences, different environmental things that she really couldn't change. And she suffered with a disease called ALS or Lou Gehrig's. Some people refer to it as Lou Gehrig's,
Yeah.
for a number of years, and ultimately did pass away. And when we would talk about it, just like, how do you come up with something? There's no cure. There's nothing to do. We just have to kind of wait this out. She would always just say, because I'm so stressed. Like, I was so stressed. I didn't handle my stress. I didn't handle my stress.
Yeah.
And she did a lot. She did everything. She had so much just empathy for her own children, for the different things that she was involved in. And honestly, she was a bit isolated. And so she took on a lot on her own. And I watched all that. And so I was kind of cognizant, like, okay, don't take on too much. Don't do this. Don't do that. You want to be healthy. But I think it was a little bit of a trick in my mind because I looked healthy.
Yeah.
I really didn't have anything going on. And I had gone through relocation with my children in the middle of COVID. Quite frankly, I took a job that brought me to a new city. Adjusting through that, not being able to come as a full family because we kind of had to split for a bit because of jobs. So there was the stress of that. There was just too many things. And the role that I was working in was very high profile. I was leading a small company into a real kind of build out of a software as a service platform for climate things. I mean, just great focus, doing everything. And one morning, I actually had my laptop in the bed with me, which was kind of common. I said, hate to say
Yeah.
that, but it was. I think
Yeah.
people can actually, that's real for a lot of
Yeah.
people, but it was
That's real.
there. I knew I had a call. I actually had a call with a client in Japan that I needed to be on as like the tech advisor for it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to set my alarm for like 5-10 minutes right before this call because it was crack of dawn. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
early. I
Wow.
needed just enough time to go to the bathroom
Yeah.
and make it back to bed because I don't have to be on camera. I'm just going to log on to this. And I had it all planned out. And the alarm went off and I woke up and it was still dark. So it was kind of like, well, maybe something's okay. It just seemed off, but it was still dark. So I was just like, well, let me just get up and go to the bathroom and keep going. And when I put my feet down on the side of the bed, it was like, oh my gosh, it was the whole room just started spinning and collapsing in and spinning and collapsing in. And I'm in the dark. So I was just like, what? How am I even seeing? I don't see. I can't feel. Like it was just the craziest thing.
Wow.
And it came out of nowhere, you know. And so, I tried to keep on going. As ridiculous as that may sound, I was like, "Let me get to the bathroom. Let me go flip the light on," and I couldn't do anything. And before a few hours had passed, I was in the emergency room, sitting in a wheelchair by myself, unable to move.
Wow. Wow. So profound. Like, and I think, one of the things that you hit the nail on when you talked about that is you felt the things, but you still kept going, right? Like you still
Yeah,
felt like you needed to push through, you needed to make a way, you needed to get on the call for work. The default wasn't, oh my goodness, why do I feel this way? And how do I care for myself? It was the reverse. And this
correct.
is so common for women and especially mothers when we are managing all the things, a home, a job, all of the different kinds of things on our lists. Like that is often the default. Like, but
Yeah,
what about everybody else? And what about everything else? Even when we feel things, even when we
right.
experience symptoms. And I really appreciate you sharing that, Danielle, because I know that will resonate with women listening to this because I've had moments like that in my life, not the exact same story, but I've had moments where I haven't felt well. I haven't felt sick. My mental health was in the toilet. Like I wasn't paying attention enough
Yeah,
to what I was really experiencing and feeling. And instead I was trying to continuing to push through or continuing to take care of someone else or continuing to kind of, check the things off the list.
yeah,
And, your story is so real. And like you said, having the computer in your bed, feeling like you always have to be on and ready to respond to the next thing, that leads to a tremendous amount of stress on our bodies, mentally, emotionally, physically, and so much more. And
yeah.
so I can't thank you enough for just being vulnerable and transparent through that because it's very real how we default to, but what about everybody else,
Yeah. Well, we don't think about our needs. And, the
Yeah.
context of being needy has such a negative connotation to it. And that's really one of the reasons why, as I was pulling myself kind of out of this abyss of, okay, you know, I'm now dependent on everybody and instead of everyone being dependent upon me. And I don't have the same, I won't say, well, let me just say, I don't have the same level of standard support coming back at me that I'm always so serious about putting out to everyone else. And it wasn't that anyone didn't want to, but it's just different. Like, it's just different, especially
Yeah.
when you've been accustomed to your mom or your spouse or your friend taking care of you all the time. Now it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, I haven't even really been trained to do this
Yeah.
because I've always been cared for.
Yeah.
And a lot of moms kind of get angry or resentful about that. But I challenge it because I'm like, we build some of this ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have needs and we just don't focus on them. And we don't want to come across as like we have needs because it
Yeah.
feels good sometimes to serve others' needs. But
Yeah.
I founded the concept of the needy mom method as I was building myself back together because we have needs. And
Yeah.
I will forever be known as a needy mom. I am a needy mom and I'm going to be
I love
healthy and happy all the way past 100 because I'm a needy mom.
I love that. And I love how you're spinning what like when we think of needy, right? We think of, all of the negativity attached to the word needy, but you are spinning this into no, we're a needy mom because we have very significant, real, authentic needs that need to
Mm-hmm.
be met in order for us to be healthy, to feel fulfilled, to show up with a clear mind, and so much more. And so I
Yeah.
love that that's really your target and your mission with what you're doing. And you want women to understand that your needs are valid. And the
Yeah.
way to have those needs met is to actually speak about them and talk about them and ask for help and be
Yeah.
willing to get into that vulnerable headspace and say, I can't do all the things and I do need support with XYZ. And so,
Yeah.
Danielle, I know when we were kind of talking beforehand and some of the things that you've shared with me prior to recording today, you've shared things like, in order to nurture the world around you, you must first nurture the world within you, right?
That's
Especially
right.
as a mom. I'd
Yeah.
love for you to kind of unpack what that means a little bit. Talk to us about, what does that practice look like? What does that mean for a mom or someone listening
Yeah.
to this who feels like they're running on empty and they know they have needs, but they don't know how to nurture their world inside? What would be
Yeah.
your advice, or how would you coach through that?
Yeah. I'm grateful that you shared that quote from me because I have really embodied that. That kind of came to me one night when I was just like, dude, you can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's like that's not enough to say, oh, you can't keep doing this, because then that other voice is like, but you have to, but you have to, but you
Yeah.
have to.
But you have to.
And to me, it was a freeing moment for me to think of it that way. It's like, okay, if I really, really, really want to take care of those around me, first I gotta nurture what's inside me before I can
Yeah.
nurture the world outside of me. And so it kind of gives you that permission, if you needed it,
Yeah.
to say, okay, this is actually the thing. This is the pre-work that's necessary for me to have like the best game ever, is to be able to take care of me first and my needs. And so when I say I'm a needy mom, I actually it's an acronym. So a lot of people, again, if you just don't want to call yourself needy because you think it's negative for now, I'll challenge you to keep on thinking about it, but I'll give you a bridge. So you could do it as an acronym. You don't have to jump straight in. You could just think of this acronym, right? So needy moms nurture yourself daily. We nurture ourselves daily. Okay, that's the N. We embrace being human
Yeah.
because we are, and it's okay to be human. We establish bold boundaries, and we learn how to do that not in a way that's contrite or confrontational, but that is a safe way. It's a safe passage for you to be able to establish those boundaries. We define our own destinies so that we don't lose ourselves as we continue through motherhood and all the other things that we do as moms. And we yield to rest, which is the most critical piece, is being able to kind of have a default system in place that you fall back to it. It's like you always yield to this, and you're able to really keep all the rest of these things going because you've given yourself that specific pause to be able
Yeah.
to yield to that. So that's what it means to be needy. And I think if people can look at it that way, then the connotation of needy can start to fade away. And this mission that I'm personally on to just truly stop mom burnout everywhere, it's going to start with moms owning that they are needy and living it in a way that um, that just turns a little bit inward, so that they know they can truly have what they need to support everything outward.
I love that. And one thing I want to kind of call to attention was the last piece you said, which is yielding to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is one of the hardest pieces for women and for moms, especially high achievers who are working really hard in their profession and in their passions, and they're also trying to raise a family, be in a marriage or a relationship, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yielding to rest is one of the most profound things we have to do for actually being able to meet our needs, but to also really protect our health, right? And I
Yeah.
am someone who really believes in how much this matters, especially as we age, especially as our health evolves over time. Like, gone are the days of being able to function on 3 to 4 hours of sleep and eating nothing
Yeah.
but sugar and caffeine. Like, we can't be ignoring how our health and our bodies and our brains are evolving. And so
Yeah.
yielding to rest, that like hit me right in my soul because it's such a big one. And it's really something that I think women need to be reminded of over and over and over. Like, you can never say it enough, because it really does make that big of a difference
Yeah.
with being able to kind of give yourself the space and the permission to pause long enough to say, okay, now I'm starting to identify and understand what I really truly need, because I've given myself the space to slow down, to
Yeah.
rest, and kind of recalibrate,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love that, Danielle. So good.
Very glad that it resonates. It's so needed.
It's so needed. And, I know one of the things that, you've started to really work on in your own life through your own story, really now being on this mission to eliminate mom burnout once and for all. Like, you've really started to build a life, work, all of the things where you have more of a rhythm that protects your peace and that practices some of these needy mom methodologies that you've put into practice or put into place. I'd love for you to kind of talk about tangibly in your day to day, like, what are the things that have shifted for you, or how has starting to kind of adopt this needy mom mentality really helped you change from maybe living in burnout or going at the speed of light, right? Trying to keep up with the hustle, to I'm living in a more calm and peaceful state, and I'm trying to be more intentional. And most of all, I'm trying to make sure that I actually do meet my needs. We'll get back to our conversation shortly after this message. If you are an overwhelmed and completely confused mom who just wants a simplified, easy to follow, and understandable plan when it comes to their health and wellness journey, then you're in the right place. As a wellness coach, I focus most on empowering women to follow a highly personalized and bio-individual plan that actually gets you results and that feels sustainable for your longevity. I'd love to invite you to set up a free coaching call to talk about your health and wellness journey. Head to erinshreer.com/coaching to set up your call today. Again, that URL is erinshreer.com/coaching to set up your call. And to make it even easier, head to the show notes of this podcast and click free coaching session to set up your call ASAP. Now let's dive back into the conversation.
Well, I could talk about that for hours. So let me think on, if let's say we talk about yield to rest, right? Which is something that resonated with you just now. And I know it is something that a lot of moms, they struggle because they're just like, well, I don't have time for that. There's kind of like the bookends when you look at the acronym for NEED. The first one is nurture yourself daily. And the last one is yield to rest. And there's a purpose in that, right? Because we kind of, those are the things that keep us most safe when we have those bookends in our lives. And those are also the things that moms will quickly say, I don't have time for that. I can't do that. I can't stop. I can't do that. I can't do that. Can't. And so when I think about yielding to rest, I experience that a couple different ways. I do a lot of journaling. So that's one thing that I think is very powerful. I think people really sleep on how impactful journaling can be. I'm a tech girl, so, sometimes I write it down, pen and paper, which I actually have a degree in psychology too. So it's like when you learn in psychology, like writing it down is with pen and paper is the most optimal way to process information and to really be able to truly kind of release if you're writing for release. But we are modern moms as well. And so we have to be able to say, okay, what are other ways if I don't have a book that I have with me all the time and I have a moment? Because we really have to, I always say, my goal is to meet moms in the cracks of our days, because we always have these little cracks, right? But they're not dedicated blocks of time that you get to do things. So if we can just find ways that we're training our mind to think about, oh, I have a moment to do something. Let me do something for me. Yeah. So for me, that looks like sometimes a voice note. I'll just take a voice note out on my phone and I say, okay, this is a journal. I use a journaling app. I'm building my own journaling app. Like, we're just going to do what we need to do because we don't always have a pen and paper. But the concept of journaling is critical. It allows you to let some things off and take them off of your mind and let there be more opportunity for you to just release that. But then at the same time, systemically, I think about it from an engineering perspective, systemically, it also gives you a way to look back. It gives you a way to see, oh, these are some areas that I really probably need to put some focus in, or here's some wonderful things I've grown in. Like everything that there is, if you just keep it in your head, you lose it. I mean,
Yeah.
we wish we wouldn't, but we do. And now with AI, all these wonderful different things, whether you're into AI or not into I use it for health related reasons. I do way more than write emails and create, content is great to do that. But there are deeper meanings that you can safely work with an AI on if it's trained, but it's going to need some digital data. So
Yeah.
writing things down, you can scan it and send it in as a PDF. If you do a voice note, you can do that. And so that reflective time where I yield at least once a week and I say, okay, let's look back at the week. What are my things that I did like really amazing on that I didn't even know that I could do? What are the things that I spent a little bit too much of my mental power on? And where
Yeah.
can I work with that? What's something of wonder? Every week I look to do something that's just kind of in the bucket of
Yeah.
wonderment and fun. Um, as we grow older, we forget about fun and we really, really need it. But when you yield to rest doesn't necessarily mean just slowing down and stopping. It's
Yeah.
just focusing directly on you. It's like system recharge for you. What do you need?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to hold myself accountable because I'm going to look back every week and say, well, what did I do that I said that I really was important for me? Did I nurture myself daily?
Yeah.
Do I have an example of some of the boundaries that I held? Was I able to say yes to something more fun, or more impactful? All the things. You just kind of a look back. And that's something that I do consistently that I didn't used to do. And I do think it adds a lot of value to me because it shows me progress in what I'm doing in my life. It shows me that I am a great mother,
Yeah.
regardless of what other things may happen in the moment. I have this thing called a messy mom moment journal. And, it's like crap's going to happen, but you give yourself grace, you learn from it, but you can really only do that if you're kind of tracking it some kind of way because you'll forget. You really do forget. So
Yeah.
that's
You
one example.
Yeah, so good. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, talking about the pen to paper method, this comes up a lot in the work I do. I've talked to other practitioners about it, other coaches, other strategists, and it comes up so much because it really is that effective. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you just said I love the most is you can actually start to really see your progress when you're practicing something like journaling, or you're actually pausing enough to say, okay, how do I want to check in with myself right now? How do I want to check in with my needs? How do I address those? And I know
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that you've also shared with me is this idea of energy management. Like, what does that look like? How do you actually get in touch with that? And journaling is one of those things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you pause and really take all of the noise out of your head and onto a piece of paper, you're more effectively able to manage all of the energy you're spending on worrying on things that aren't
Yeah.
necessary, or making up stories, or getting overwhelmed about something, or feeling like you can't hit the mark on an agenda or a task that you
Mm-hmm.
were supposed to do, right? Like, really getting into these simple tangible things
Right.
is
Right.
is massive for things like managing your energy, managing your mood, managing how
Yeah.
your brain feels, and so much more. I love that, Danielle. So good.
Yeah.
So
And when
good.
it comes to energy specifically, I have learned, and I think many people, if you just do a small little research, look at any of the psychology research journals, energy is cyclical, right? We're built that way. Like regardless of if we want to fight it or not, as a human, you are built in a system that is cyclical. So we're going to have, these weekly cycles, monthly cycles. We're going to have the 24-hour cycle. These things are real.
Yep.
And no one teaches us that. Like that's not a part of some type of science class that you take.
No.
They just don't teach you that. But
Yep.
that's something that's really happening in your body. It's a cycle. And I always talk about like if you back in the old days, there would be the blue screen of death on a Microsoft system where it's like it just stops. It's just like, dude, I don't know. And it's
Yeah.
blue and you can't do anything but reboot it.
Right.
And you know, many people that are younger than me may not even know what that means anymore because technology has gotten great. But I remember it. And that's how I think about the energy is like, if you don't take an opportunity to not just um, really focus on the cycle of your energy, but to give it what it needs at the proper times, you'll get the blue screen.
Yep.
It'll shut down on you. I mean, that's what happened to me. It just shut down
Yeah.
and didn't give any warning. It's like, was it the last thing I typed or was it all 40 of these things? It didn't tell you. And
Yeah.
so that's where, when you look at cognitive science and you look at just like the natural peaks and valleys that we have in our system, stop pushing past it. Like moms just push past it. And there's so
Yes.
much power in pausing. So much power in pausing. And pause looks different to everybody. And you know what? You won't really know what's going to be most impactful to you until you tried some things. That's where the fun of wonder comes in, and the fun of like just taking a note and seeing, oh, I liked that or I didn't like that. I have people who love breath work. I love breath work. I think it's amazing. But I've
Yeah.
also worked with moms that are like, that didn't do anything. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But they may like gardening or they may like standing outside. I also like to look at the clouds, which is a really old school crazy thing that kids used to do. But I'll sit out there for a good 10-15 minutes and try to find as many shapes as I can.
Yep.
And that is allowing my system to do that background processing that it needs to do because it's not activated to do anything else. And that's really what we have to focus on.
And we have to focus on that. And one of the things I love that you just shared was this idea of, I think a lot of women, myself included, like I think of myself in this too, when I think about, the idea of like hustling for goals, right? Trying to show up for my family, trying to, fulfill the needs of what I have envisioned for myself as an entrepreneur. This idea of like managing your energy or giving yourself permission to pause. So many of us start to kind of internalize or even feel kind of anxious about it because it's almost like, oh my gosh, I have to do so much less, right? Or I'm not going to be able to do all the things I said I was going to do or that I want to do. And I know a lot of what you teach and share is about not necessarily doing less, but really just doing things differently, right?
Yes, exactly.
And you hit the nail on the head with when you give yourself those mini breaks, those brain pauses, that space to just stop. Mm-hmm. It gives yourself this, it's literally a reboot. It's literally a recalibration to say, okay, I am now ready to be prepared for the next task, for the next thing. And so I love that you're talking through that because it really is a very profound practice in whatever way works for you. That is a necessity for your health and for yourself to be able to show up the way I know that so many of us crave, right? Yeah. And so I love that you shared that. And I love the cloud thing. I'm totally a cloud person. Totally.
It's fun,
So fun.
And there's no right or wrong answer. Yeah. So that's the thing about it. It's like giving yourself, it's not striving. Like I'm like, I have to find this in the cloud. It's like, it's no right or wrong answer. So many things that we have, like you mentioned, we're striving. We're caught in this concept of striving. And the whole concept of yielding to rest is to release yourself from striving. Just give yourself a moment where you're not striving for anything right now. You're just being with yourself and giving yourself the joy of receiving just you.
Yeah. Danielle, what would you say to the mom or woman listening to this who resonates with that and knows she needs that, but she's struggling with the how? Like, how does she shut it off? How does she give herself permission? Like, how does she do these things? What would you tell her to do first?
So the first thing that really comes to mind for me is to just take 10 minutes, go someplace that you can be by yourself, turn off notifications on the phones, emails, sit someplace quiet and really visualize yourself doing it. Yeah. Visualize what it would be like to, instead of all the boundaries and the things that say you can't, just spend 10 minutes visualizing for yourself what that would look like. Give yourself the freedom to dream of it, even if it's like so far-fetched. Just dream it out and really allow that to come into your spirit and to come into your mind, because I think a lot of things that we struggle with as moms is it's just a brain fuss. It's
Yeah.
not real per
Yeah.
se, and I don't want to say that we don't have real responsibilities and real circumstances, because that is the truth. We have
Yeah.
things we have to do, but at the same time it's something that I have to do. I could maybe give myself 5 minutes before I do it.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised that the 5 minutes that I spent in a meditative moment for myself, or the 5 minutes that I spent just being like, I like myself. I'm so happy with what I've done as my life, or I like that my children were dressed today, or I like 5 minutes
Yeah.
can make such a difference. I'll give you one quick story, and then I guess I should finish the thing, but just came to mind. So there
Yeah.
was a lady that I just did a brief coaching with, just like 1 or 2 weeks even, and she was in a real situation. Like I can tell you, I was stressed for her. She was in a real
Wow.
situation. She had a toddler. She had just given born, just giving birth to a new child.
Yeah.
So she's got 2 kids, very, very young. She's working, and her specific circumstances did not allow her any time off. And
Wow.
I couldn't even imagine that that was legit in the United States. But
Wow.
no lie, her specific circumstances, which I won't get into, they didn't allow her any time off. So she had like days before she
Wow.
was going to go back. And she was also working on her PhD at the same time that she was working with these children. And I was
Wow.
just like, how are you? Okay. I don't even know, really.
Yeah.
So I said, we've got to find something super, super small. And so, I just gave her a very, very tiny task. And it was 5 minutes. And I just asked her, I begged her, I said, would you just please do this every day for 5 minutes? You don't even have to do it a couple times a day. Just find 5 minutes in a day. 5 minutes. And she was so hesitant. She was like, that is not going to do nothing. Do you realize she got a list. She's like, I got this.
Yeah.
Do you realize, like, you quack,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And I said, I said, you know what? This will be an experiment for both of us, because I truly believe it. I truly believe this will help you, but just experiment with me.
Yeah.
And long story short, she did it. And it was a simple thing. It was such a simple thing. And when we met again, I mean, I will tell this story forever, because I just was so full of joy for her, because it was the beginning.
Yeah.
And she shared with me that, she found herself walking by the mirror, and where she used to just not even want to look in the mirror. She was so
Yeah.
angry, so mad, so tired.
Yeah.
But she found herself looking in the mirror, and she would smile.
Yeah.
And she was like, I can't remember the last time I looked in the mirror and smiled at myself. And that was
Wow.
the thing that she said that stuck with me.
Yep.
And I said, 5 minutes. It was 5 minutes, Erin.
Yeah.
So we have this mind, and I'm sorry that I get emotional, but we have this mind that we have been taught for so long that we have to push through, and that we don't have time to do
Yep.
anything but tend to others. It is a lie,
Yep.
and it is killing us. And so the burnout that we are experiencing as modern moms, with all the tech, with all the things that you just don't get away, there's not a place to turn off anymore. And
Yeah.
so what I would say to the woman who is saying, I don't have time for this, or I don't even know how to start, I would say, visualize what that joy looks like for you.
Yeah.
You have values, you have things that are important to you. Tie it in. Understand what could be possible if you just did a little, and then do a little.
And then do
Whatever
it.
that looks like for you, just do a little. It's a micro pause. It's a micro pause. You can work up to a bigger pause,
Yep.
but 5 minutes, it'll change your life. It'll
It
change your
does.
life.
It does. Danielle, thank you for sharing that. So good. And don't ever apologize for being emotional. I mean, these topics are very real for women. And you are absolutely right. Like, we just don't pause enough, and we tend to all the needs, and it is killing us. It
Mm-hmm.
is adding this tremendous amount of stress to our everyday life. And, as modern moms with technology, everything, and connected at all times, it is very hard to find the space or make the space to actually pause and shut it down. But it is a necessity. It is
Mm-hmm.
100% a necessity, which is why I absolutely adore and love the work you're doing and the passion that you
Thank you.
have for creating the needy mom and the idea of what this is and what this means and how we actually get rooted in giving ourselves the space to pause. But beyond that, which I loved even more, was giving ourselves the space to dream, right?
Yes. Yes.
Giving ourselves the space to say, hey, like, I'm a woman in here. I have values, like, I have passions, I have desires, I have things I love and adore that I want to do and make an impact on, and whatever it is, like, give yourself the space to pause enough to also dream
Yeah.
and imagine like what that looks like for you in your life and what that means from a joy and happiness standpoint,
Yeah.
and above all, how that will make you feel in showing up in your day to day. And all of that is so aligned with what I teach and what I talk about often as a women's health coach. And again, Danielle, I just can't thank you enough for everything that you've shared today as far as your heart and what you're doing to really support moms, especially the modern day
Thank
mom.
you. Yes.
And
Thank you.
before we wrap up really quickly, can you share a little bit more about the Needy Mom model and how people
Mm-hmm.
can connect with you or work with you if they want to learn more?
Oh, yeah, certainly. So right now I do a couple different things that are a part of kind of like the umbrella of the needy mom, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Um, there's an opportunity. I do take some limited coaching. So I do have some one-on-one coaching that's available. We do, kind of like hourly sessions and different things of
Okay.
that nature. We can go through a whole series of multiple sessions as a group, or it could just be, you want to talk with me for an hour. You've got some specific focus that you really would like some support on, and we could do that. We are launching the Needy Mom Legacy Lounge this month, which is amazing because that gives us an opportunity to have a really curated, close knit, just collective of moms that get this. They understand. They know that they need support. They know that they want to have that dream of the things that, like you said, I love how you said, Erin, I'm a woman in here.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not forget that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But they also know that they are moms and they have their children, and what are we teaching our children? Like,
Yep.
I learned the things that I learned from my mom, and she learned from her mom, so we have to be aware that when we changed the blueprint for self-care and health and wellness, our children see that. And
Yeah.
so that's the company that I own is called Bend the Twig because of that. It's like when you were able to get to this space and a place where you can create this new blueprint, then it shapes the tree for your children to grow in a stronger pattern as well. So I'm not negating the fact that we are still moms and
Yep.
we are here to take care of our children, but we must take care of ourselves first. And so
Yep.
those are two ways, either working with me one-on-one or working, coming and joining the Legacy Lounge. And then I did mention to you that as a tech girl, I'm in the process of building out this amazing digital wellness platform that is just a holistic view of a mom's life, and not like any other thing you've seen that's very generic, that's very much like, you have 1,000 different meditations that you could go to, but you don't like meditations and you don't
Yeah.
know how to do a meditation because
Yeah.
I have kids that just threw up on the floor and a dog that's barking, and I'm supposed to be picking up someone from Carline. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
more understanding of a mom's actual lived life.
Yep.
That's what we're building in the background. So those people who are able to come and actually join the Legacy Lounge right now will be early access to that. You'll have free access to it. You'll be able to come in as a beta tester. And yeah, we just got a lot of great things going on. So that's how you can work with me and find out more about the Needy Mom.
Awesome. I love all of the initiatives, Danielle. And I have no doubt that you are going to continue to serve so many moms, so many women, and just empower all of us with this concept of like, we don't have to live this burned out, like, you know, feeling like we're constantly stretched thin life. Like, there's
Yeah.
so many things and tools we can utilize as we get more grounded in really understanding our needs and then expressing how we maybe need help, support, et cetera, in order to meet them. And so I'm just so grateful for you, Danielle. Will you also share a website, Instagram, Facebook, how people can also connect with you online too?
Yeah, so you can go to theneedymom.com, which is just how it's spelled. And then you can find me on IG or Instagram at the Needy Mom as well.
Great. And we will make sure everything is linked in the show notes of this podcast. Danielle, thank you again for your incredible insight today and just your heart to serve. It is just wonderful to kind of connect with you and hear more about what you're doing for women in so many different capacities. So thank you again, my friend.
Thank you, Erin. So happy
Take
to
care.
be here.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I know balancing time and energy can be a challenge, and I'm so proud of you for listening in and investing in your wellness journey. I feel incredibly grateful to connect with you and for the opportunity to share more knowledge, stories, and encouragement related to all things wellness. I would love to hear how this podcast has served you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review on either iTunes or Spotify. Your support truly means the world to me and helps me reach more women just like you and me who are looking to transform their health from the inside out. Plus, when you share this episode with a friend, we invite more women in to learn alongside us. What a gift. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we know, the better we can do. For ourselves, for our families, and our future. Well done on taking the step towards a healthier, happier you. Until next week, stay empowered and stay well.